Why, hello there everyone. I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. Minasan, konbanwa. And today I have a lost in my collection, and this one here is one of my few OBT females. And this is an adult that I was supposed to breed, but sadly she had a bad molt and she passed. Now sometimes bad molts just happened, and I didn't really have time to check up on this female because I had work, and I've been busy this entire week, and I've been actually trying to downsize my collection because of the slings I've been producing, and by the time it came around to check on this female, she already passed. Now typically, I don't expect bad molts when tarantulas go into pre-molt, so I just go in assuming they'll molt sometime later, and then I'll pull out the molt later within the week. And if I'm being honest, I really didn't expect this to happen, so I will take full responsibility for what has happened here. And trust me, there's a lot of tarantula breeders that are kind of ignorant, but you kind of had to own up to things whenever they happen, whether it's intentional or not, or things of that matter. And although the bad molt was something I really can't control, I still had to take a responsibility as this pet's owner. But coming back around, the original purpose of this female was to actually breed her along with her sisters, and I will actually show you some of her sisters later on. Now the mature male I was supposed to use also passed away of old age. Now when I've gotten him, he was pretty much in his later half of his maturity, so honestly I didn't really think he'll be fertile, so I only bred him with one female, and surprisingly that one female actually laid an Eggsac, and I will show you her later in this video. But first I would like to show you one of her sisters that I was supposed to breed, but didn't because the male passed away before I had the chance to. And it's kind of unfortunate, but things happen and you just kind of have to accept that they happen and learn from it, I guess, and move on. And that's pretty much all you can do, honestly. Just own up to it, I guess. But don't feel so down, guys, because we do have at least one Eggsac, and let us hope for the best. So without further ado, guys, let us jump on and allow me to show you one of her sisters that was supposed to be bred. And she's a relatively large female, 5 inches to 5.5 inches, and she's pretty much ready to go. She molted about a month or two ago, and sadly there's no males for her. And as for the female that did have an Eggsac, I will try my best to actually show you her Eggsac, I guess, but I'm not going to open her enclosure because she webbed on it quite a bit, so I don't want to stress out the female any more than I need to, so I'll give you a quick shot of her later on in this video. And some people have requested for a follow-up on the balfouri pairing and whatnot, and I will show you the slings later on in this video. But for now, let us talk about the OBT, where I've been, and why this video is late. I've been super busy with work, and I've been trying to actually downsize some of my collection because I want to make space and afford time to actually take care of the slings that I've produced this year. And honestly, I lost track of time, so that one's kind of on me, but at the same time, I've been a busybody. And I've been everywhere, out of town, and away from my tarantulas, which is why this video is a little late, especially on the editing. So, allow me to show you the female OBT with an Eggsac, and here she is. And this is the best shot I can get of her without disturbing her too much, and she's actually a relatively good mom. Now, I'm not going to pull this Eggsac just yet, we still have a couple to a few weeks to go before I pull it, so let us wait and see if this Eggsac is good or not. And now you're seeing some balfouri slings. These are 3rd to 4th instar balfouri slings, and I know that for some people these look like 1st instar slings that should go back into the incubator, but I promise you everyone that these are 3rd to 4th instar slings. So allow me to explain. So balfouris are pretty interesting. They don't look like developed slings at 2nd instar like your typical tarantula sling for most species, and they actually take a few molts before they reach that sling looking stage that everybody's typical of. I'd say somewhere between 6th to 8th instar is when they start looking like actual slings. Now if you're a newer tarantula breeder or a tarantula breeder that has never worked with the species, I highly recommend just leaving the Eggsac with the mom and just let the eggs hatch out with the mom and then just raise them up that way until they're ready to separate. Now for me personally, the reason why I do it the way I do it is just because it's just easier for me to monitor the babies. But hey, if you don't want to do the work, I really recommend just leaving them with the mom and just let her do the work. But for me as a tarantula breeder, you have to monitor each individual and kind of keep up with their growth rates, etc, etc. So I prefer monitoring them this way because it's just easier on my part. But for the typical tarantula breeder, they're just going to leave with the mom because hey, you get to see a nice communal with the mom, babies, and a bunch of spiders, I guess. Now when it came to editing this video, it was a bit difficult because I've gotten a new computer for editing, and some of my data and some of my personal save files from my older PC did not transfer so well, so editing was a real difficult task, especially on this new computer. I wouldn't necessarily say it was worse, but it's different. So I'm still getting used to this new PC that I have for editing videos, so editing should be much more quicker now, especially when it comes to exporting. But sadly, my internet is still pretty bad, so uploading videos may still take a while, but let's wait and see, right? So jumping back into these balfouri slings, I usually keep them communal in groups until they're large enough to where I can actually be confident in separating them. I find that when you keep balfouri as communals, they do eat better, but as a tarantula breeder, if you're trying to monitor their growth rates in each individual and raise them up as future breeders, you kind of want to keep them separate so that way you know which tarantula is which. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm keeping these babies together until they're large enough to where I can separate them confidently, because if you separate these individually at this instar or this stage, they probably will not do too well, which is why I like to keep them like this until they're large enough to where I'm confident they can actually survive on their own. But it's like how I stated in the past, everyone, to each their own. Other tarantula breeders have their own ways of doing things. This is just the way I do it. Now, my way is not the easy way, nor is it the 100% way. This way that I do it is really just the way I prefer to do it, so it's not the gospel or is not the true way of doing it. Everyone will have their own different variations or completely different ways of how they do it, or how they approach tarantula slings. So that's my disclaimer. So I'm guessing this is about it for now for today's video, and I also want to apologize again, because I've been busy, so my videos may be a bit shorter or they may be a bit later than usual because I've been working a lot. But let us see for next week. And as the typical everyone, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I upload every single Tuesday and Friday. Support me on my social media and support me on Patreon. And with that, stay lax and Laxow out from the Kumo Sensei.